Peace everybody, this is All4Reborns and I am going to be showing you guys today how to paint a Caucasian reborn. So hopefully you've seen my other steps in the process, but we're going to be starting here with this Cade kit, which is already washed, and we've already mixed our paints. And so now we're going to start putting the paint on the baby. And so we're going to use that flesh tone paint that we made in the last video. And mine has been sitting for a couple days, and I realized I like these new jars better. This is a Sure Fit Cure mason jar. The brand is K-E-R-R, Sure Tight. And I was using these ones. These are just like regular mason jars. But with this Sure Tight lid, it was super duper air tight. And I noticed that there's not a change in my paints at all. It's just like when I made it a few days ago. And that is a lot because I live in a very dry place. Alright, you're also going to need to have your water ready. And I have some of my brushes in here already because I was already painting on a little project I'm working on. But so let's start by just squeezing out your sponge. Have it in your water and squeeze it out really nice. You want it, you know, to be as dry as you can get it, but still having dampness to it. Alright, and because I'm assuming you're new to air dry paints, let's start with like a leg or an arm. We don't want to start with the face because the legs and the arms are more forgiving. So if you do make a mistake, which you probably will, you know, you haven't messed up the face. Alright, so I'm going to start, and sometimes I start at the feet, sometimes I start at the top of the leg. It just depends on how you like to hold it. I do try to keep my hand touching of the doll to a minimum because of the oils on our hands, and I always wash my hands before I paint. I used to wear gloves when I painted, but I like to touch the vinyl more now. So alright, anyway, enough talking, let's get started. And so all I'm doing here is just dabbing that flesh tone on here. Alright, let me get my jar of paint brushes to set my brush in as I go. Alright, and with air dry paints, they do dry, but you have a little time. You know, you have maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute, I guess, to do the next thing. So I just took my sponge and I just blotted this on here. Okay? Now, there's something I forgot to say. I'm sorry. If you are not, remember in the last video we talked about tones and the kits, and if you're with a Bountiful Baby kit or a kit that is not already having a yellow tone, you're going to need to do this yellow layer first. So you can do the same thing I'm doing, just do it with a yellow layer, and you're only going to need one layer of the yellow. But I'm skipping over that step because of the baby that I'm painting already has nice yellow tones in it. Alright, so we just do that. And I'm just putting the paint on the doll like that. Grabbing my sponge and then just blotting it like that. Now, if you've painted before and you've used the wedges, it's kind of the same thing as the wedges, only I'm doing it with the sea sponge. And it's going to be kind of hard to see anything at first, these first few layers, but it will build up. And the main thing is you want it to have like a little wet appearance, and you don't want to take off all your paint. So that's why we use the sea sponge, because the sea sponge is forgiving and it leaves some paint on versus the wedge, which takes it all off. So there we go. That's looking nice. Alright, I wanted to change our angle a little bit to make sure that you're getting good lighting to see this. I think this will be a better angle for the light. So hopefully before you weren't like, oh my gosh, I can't see. Okay. There we go. And notice I'm trying to blend across the line. I'm keeping track of where I started and where I stopped. So I started about here. So I'm just going to put on some paint there. And then when I blot, I try to do a little blending, going back up across what I've done, but not too much. And then also notice I'm doing a small area at a time. I'm not just painting the whole leg at one time. I'm doing like a little area and then blotting with the sea sponge. And the reason why is because with acrylics, you do have that fast dry time. Let's get in there in that crease. You do have that fast dry time, and you'll end up with like unevenness in your work if you just paint the whole leg. Trust me, I've done it. You'll end up with unevenness in your paint in your limb if you just paint the whole thing and blot the whole thing. Nope, just do small areas at a time. Alright, this is about when I switch what I'm holding and I hold it this way. Okay, but because it's getting cold here finally. If this were summertime, this whole leg would be dry already. But it's getting cold here and my drying time has slowed down. So maybe where you are, if you're in a cold place, it might take even longer than mine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it over here on my drying rack and I'm going to grab an arm. I'm going to let that dry and then I'm going to go back and do the foot. Because I put that flesh color over the whole foot, palms, nails, everything. Alright, so here we go. Let's do the same thing. We're starting with the arm. And we're doing that same step. Right? If you see little bubbles on your work, like air bubbles, water bubbles, try to get those out a little bit. Like you don't want, like a little bit of the bubbles is okay, but you don't want like big bubbles. Let me see if I can make some big bubbles, because when that dries, that's going to leave marks on your work. You see like that big bubble right there? You don't want those big bubbles. The little tiny bubbles are okay because they will evaporate. And I don't know, one thing to think about is, like I know right now you're just copying my steps that I'm doing, but it's nice to have an inspiration baby. And sometimes when I paint, I have an inspiration baby. And sometimes when I paint, I don't. You know, it just depends. But lately, I've been enjoying having an inspiration baby that I use to kind of inspire what direction I'm going to go with my painting. Excuse me. And I'll show you guys my inspiration baby in 1 second. Because I'm getting to the end of this hand here. I mean this arm. And I don't want to do the hand yet. I'm going to let this all dry. And I should be able to go back to the foot now. So I'm putting this on the drying rack. And I hope I'm not going too fast for you guys. There we go. Alright, let me show you my inspiration baby. I keep a log on Instagram. Isn't he the cutest thing ever? So I know Cade doesn't really look like this baby. They're definitely not the same face, but Cade has like African American features. And this baby is biracial. He's his dad is black and his mom is white. And this is his Instagram page if you guys want to check out some of his pictures. He's just the cutest little guy. And I love, you know, his hair. I'm going to go a different direction with the hair. I already have in mind what I want, and I hope I can find it, because I want to go with like a sandy blonde color on my baby. But I want to go with those, you know, light pink lips, and the eye color on my baby will be either blue or green, because it looks like his eye color changes in different pictures. Like in here they look kind of really aquamarine. But anyway, that's the color I'm going for, and you could see that with the flesh. Like he has a lot of this coloring in him. And yeah, I think he's just really cute. And so on this baby, it'll be just really subtle blushing, because like this is today or sometime this week, She posted a baby video of him, and he's not a really heavily blushed baby. So that's kind of the direction I'm gonna go. So I encourage you to look at baby photos if you don't already, and that will kind of guide you. Another thing you can do, I'm starting on the foot now. I've already put paint here, so let's go ahead and get those toes. Another thing you can do to kind of guide you though is to look at artist work that you like. So like if you like my work, you can look at pictures of artist work that you like, because that's what I did when I first started. I would artists whose work I really like, and even now, like as I'm trying to get better at painting hair, I look at real baby photos of hair, but I also look at the artist who I like, and I can't copy exactly what they do, but I can kind of take inspiration from them to develop my own style, because that's what you're doing. All right, this limb is dry enough for me to go on and paint his little hands. So I'm pretty sure my baby's gonna be a boy. That's what I'm going for. All right, so let's talk about this right here. You're gonna want to have a little brush that I call it a cleanup brush. And so all it is a little skinny like detail brush. This can be like one of your older brushes that you haven't used, or that's a little used. And like I got a little paint in the creases in here, and I don't want to have clumps in my creases, so I went ahead and went through and just wipe it off. Same thing if you're painting and you notice that there's lint or hair or something on your paints, you just flick it off. Like that was a little spot there, and I just wipe it on my hand like that, or you can wipe it on a towel. But yeah, that way your work just stays nice and clean. It's good to have that beside you. I don't have to use it as much now that I have started to seal my work with these jars. My work stays pretty clean, but things happen. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna need to do some more cleaning up here because of these creases. And then also you can just blot it in, dab it into the creases as well. All right, it's a little hair right there. Cool. All right, let's put this back. So we've got 2 down. All right, we're gonna do the same things to the other 2 limbs. So I'm not gonna show you that in this video. I'm gonna let you do that one on your own. I'm gonna go on to this belly plate though, and then I'll go on to the face. All right, so I've already washed his little belly plate, and now I'm just putting my paints on. Now, you might be wondering, why doesn't she just do that, like paint it like that? Well, you can try it on your doll and see if you like it, but I like the blotchy skin effect on my dolls, so I don't like to do the smooth painting, but there are times when I do use that technique. Okay, if your sponge feels like it's getting dry, you can always re-wet it and squeeze it out, and I think I'm gonna do that here in a minute. Probably after this belly plate, I'll have to do that. All right. How cute. All right, so let's let this dry. And I'm gonna put my water back in here. Squeeze it out a little. And let's go on to this little face. All right. I like to start at the back of the head. Again, because I feel like if I make a mistake, it's more forgiving to make a mistake in the back of the head than in the front. So I like to just test it out. But now that I'm, you know, now that I paint so many dolls, actually, the first thing I do when I paint is not the limbs. The first thing I do is the head. Because it's the most fun to paint for me. That's my favorite part. And I feel like it just kind of adds character for the rest of my work. So it's up to you, once you feel comfortable, which part you want to start with. You can see what I'm doing in here. There's some paint in those creases, and I don't want that paint there. Smooth that out. We'll be putting paint there later, but not that. We don't want a ton of that color caked up in our creases. Alright, let's keep going here. Get some more paint on my brush and just get a little area. There we go. Let's keep going here. Make sure we get behind those ears and in those ears. Around the ears, I kind of make sure I get it dry. And then I'll probably go inside the ear with my little cleanup brush here in a second. And you can notice I'm rotating my sponge at times too. Like if I don't feel it's cleaning up as well, I will rotate my sponge to get to another part. Let's clean out little Cade's ear. Alright, let's keep going, Cade. We're getting you there. Uh-oh. Alright, now on this part, just put it all over the place. Want to make sure you don't leave any watermarks here. I don't like that my paint's not picking up. My sponge isn't picking up enough paint. So I'm going to rinse it out again, give it a good squeeze. If you notice that paint isn't getting lifted enough, you can do that. There we go. Nice. Alright, and let's go ahead and clean up here. I got a little... I was painting with black earlier. Probably should have cleaned off my brush a little bit more, but that's okay. We'll get that off of his little face. Use my nail a little bit. Alright, let's get these creases around his nostrils. Get that all dabbed out. And then these creases in here, we want them to have nice and clean eyes. Good, that's looking good to me. Alright, and let's go on down here. We're going to cover the lips too. Cover it all. And this first layer of paint is probably the most difficult as far as the vinyl accepting the paint. Now that we've laid down this foundation of the first layer, whether it was you using the yellow or you using the terracotta flesh mix that we made, you'll find that the next layers show up a little more. You should see a difference. Although with flesh, it's kind of hard to see a difference depending on the color of the kit. But you'll notice that it's like the paint just goes on so much easier after this. So let's clean up this little ear over here. Boom. There we go. Alright, so go ahead and finish up your leg and your arm. And I'm going to finish up mine, and then I'll be back in a second. And we'll continue on to the next step, which is to add one more layer of flesh. Alright, so we're back, And hopefully you have painted your first layer on your kit. And now we are going to go on to the second layer. And this is where we should start to see a little bit of a difference in our baby. So I'm going to start with the leg that we first started with. And let's make sure our sponge is nice and rinsed out in our water here. Give it a nice squeeze. And then let's get on with this flesh layer. After this, we'll do all the fun stuff that really brings the doll to life. Alright, so we're doing the same technique here. And we're pouncing. Alright, and we should be able to see a difference here with as far as the flesh. It just stands out more to me. It's easier to adhere to the vinyl. Alright. So we're going to do this all over the entire kit again. And we'll also do it to the palms and soles of the feet too. We won't skip anything. Sometimes when I paint, I do the creases first, but I didn't really want to do that first today. All right, so hope that wasn't too fast because I can paint fast, guys. So just blot that on there. Okay, see, that's what we're going for there. Whoops. All right, so we'll go up to here and stop. You know, sometimes I do a technique like with this baby. I don't know, he's older, but if it were a newborn baby, I would not put so much coloring here to make it look like a paler, like newborn. You know, when their hands are born, I know how to talk. When a baby is born, their hands are lighter because they haven't gotten all their coloring. So I'm not going to do that on this one though, because my kit is, he's older. This is a big guy. He looks like he's at least 3 months old. He's so chunky. But you can decide on your kit, depending on what you painted. You might want to be a little more faint with your painting of the hands and the feet. And when we do our ethnic baby, I'll try to choose a kit that I can show that. That's like a favorite thing of mine to do. All right, and then also if you're doing this and you notice any spots like lint or anything, feel free to use the cleanup brush. I'm not seeing any on mine right now, so that's why I'm not using it. All right, so we're going to come back to that foot here in a second. And let's go on to the last limb. I guess I'm doing the whole thing because I'm moving faster now. I feel like you guys kind of got the technique down. So I hope I'm not going too fast. You know, you obviously don't have to go that fast, but I'm just showing you what I'm doing. And in case you're wondering, when I blot, I don't get every single area so that there's no paint showing. I like to miss areas. That's part of the technique that gives it that, you know, blotchy skin, is that you miss areas. And then when you do your sponge too, your sponge spreads it out. Uh-oh, I need to move this. This is not smart to have you here little little belly plate. You guys gotta forgive me, my heater is on and it's drying me out a little bit. Let me drink a little water. Alright. So, let's get back to this now. Yeah, don't do what I did. I was thinking that earlier, like, oh, I should move this belly plate, and you should. Don't do what I did. Like, it's not your turn to get painted yet, belly plate. Alright, so there we go. That's perfect. And I'm going to go back to those feet. The feet, not the feet. The feet and hands. Let's go back. Let's do the bottoms. I'm feeling like I need to rinse my sponge, because when it gets to a point where the paint, like you're noticing it not lifting the paint very well, that means you just need to give it a little rinse and a little squeeze to refresh it. So that's what I did. Now we're going to go on to this foot here, and I'm holding it on the bottom here. All right. Actually, I'm going to hold it on the ankle. All right. And I love this hand. This hand is so cute. Those long fingers. It reminds me of, this is a Georgia Pigot sculpt, but her fingers remind me so much of the Serenity kit of this hand. It just, so much about it is similar. And it's like the way it's all smoothed out here. It's so pretty. They're both great sculptors. So great to be able to paint these kits by these talented sculptors. It's really fun. Alright, I'm getting some in the creases here. So let's clean you out there. There we go. Uh-oh. Oh boy. Oh my gosh, guys. I just threw water across the room. Alright, let's do the, I got this wet too. Alright, I'm gonna blot this and then come back to it, because I just got it wet when I sprayed water across the room with my brush. Yikes. Alright, let's go on to the head now. Starting in the back again. It's what I always do. I'm going to go ahead and clean up in these creases here. There we go. Normally when I paint, I like to listen to music and watch Hulu or Netflix or YouTube. Yeah, that's my time. Usually it's my time to catch up on my shows, because I don't really watch TV during the week because it's just so busy. So I catch up on my shows and listen to music. Yeah, painting is definitely a relaxing time for me. And that's what it needs to be for you too. Let it be your relaxation. And, you know, don't worry about mistakes, because we can fix those. Those can all be fixed. You can, there's ways and techniques that you'll learn to turn your mistakes into happy accidents. I'm just going in here and cleaning out this ear. I didn't really have to do it on this one, but I had a little too much paint in there. right, little buddy. We're almost done with your face. Little guy. He's gonna be so cute. I can't wait to... My favorite step of painting is when we start adding the detailing and the blushing. That's when they just really, really, really come to life. So, in the next video or next segment, we'll be mixing up our creasing and blushing colors. Because that's all that we got to do next is crease, blush. We can add some veins. I probably will not be doing fingernails because I just don't. I typically don't do it on my sculpts. I just don't. Some sculpts need it. It depends. Like if the hands aren't so sculpted, like a sculpted detail. If that makes any sense. If the hands need a little help to help them look more real, I'll add fingernails. But most of the time, I don't. Alright, let's go on to this belly plate. It's our last step. And everything, all of my limbs look pretty much dry right now. I mean, isn't that great, guys? I mean, I know some people who are watching this video, you've switched from Genesis and you're trying to air dry. I've never used Genesis, so I don't know, but it just sounds like such a pain to try to, like you have to bake in between each layer. And I mean, all we have to do is wait for our paint to dry and we can go on to the next step. So I think that's great. It saves you so much time and you're not exposing yourself to the harsh fumes. I know some people do it outside, but it still just takes so much time. But at the same time, I can't compare to Genesis. Like, I have no comparison to know if it's like what the difference is, because I've never tried it. I know that people have made beautiful babies with Genesis heat sets, so I'm not knocking people that do it at all. I think we all have our way of doing things. What works for some people doesn't work for others, and vice versa. Alright, so I'm done with that. And we have a nice foundation of flesh on our little baby. And it may be hard to see depending on the tone of your kit. I know it may not look like I've done anything here. But if you go back, and let's go back and look at these limbs, I can see a huge difference. We've created a nice matte finish because of our matte sealer that we mixed in with our paint. So you don't have that vinyl feel anymore. And then also because of the flesh, we've created a nice translucent. I mean, it looks so like, I don't know if I want to say pearl, but I can, it looks so pretty. And another thing you can do is look at the end of your vinyl to see where you've come from. Just look at the end of the vinyl and then look at where you paint it, and that'll show you, if you're like, oh, I see nothing. Alright, so this is going to complete our flesh tone tutorial. Our next step is for the blushing, and I'm going to do that in a separate video. Alright, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you'll tune in for the next part. Peace and love.